What is going on, y'all? Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chris Hennessy. This is So I Did a Thing, where I have cool conversations with cool people who are doing really cool things. And I'm not even going to talk a whole lot before my guests come on tonight. I'm going to jump right into it. Hey, Kim, how are you, ma'am? Thanks for joining in. That's one of my in real life friends that I actually know in person. My guests tonight, like, they do all kinds of crazy stuff. And if y'all know me, y'all know my story that, I was off into drugs and doing all the craziness. And, I've worked in prison ministry and kind of helped guys coming out of prison and all that. But these two people here are like in the actual trenches, hanging out with the people that are going through all the shit that comes with addiction and homelessness and all that. So without even any more introduction, I'm going to bring out Ben and Jess Owen.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Man,
Thanks so much for joining me, man. I am good. How are y'all doing?
Exhausted, as usual.
Exhausted,
Just
yeah.
sick, but we're making it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No wonder she's so quiet.
I am a little quieter tonight, yeah.
What's up, Jason Goodell, Sam Sierra? Glad y'all are here. So, man, let's just jump right into it. Like, y'all have your hands in so many different things. And I was kind of doing a little bit of research before the show. You've got Flanders Field. You've got the Black Rifle Not Coffee Company. And I'm not even going to lie. When I first got on LinkedIn and followed the Black Rifle Company, I thought it was the Black Rifle Coffee Company.
You're not alone in that. That's why we had
Yeah.
coffee. I was tired of getting hate mail for whatever. Somebody found a reason to be mad at the coffee guys. I was like, that's not me. I did that.
And then y'all have We Fight Monsters, where you work with kids coming out of trafficking and fighting pedophiles and all that kind of stuff. So y'all are just like, it's trench warfare, isn't it?
It is very much so, right here on the streets of America. And you mentioned Flanders. That was kind of where everything started. We've got Black Rifle, which is my day job. It's a company that I own. And we do data intelligence and digital media for the gun industry. We decided to start Flanders Fields we decided to start it back in like 2017, 2018 when she was in the middle of her opiate addiction. I think I was actually sober at the time. And we realized there was no organization dedicated to helping vets battling the opioid epidemic, which in large part at the time, at least, was fueled by VA overprescription of opiates. Yeah. So we kind of came up with the name back then. But from 2017 to 2019, we ended up both back on heroin, crack, homeless, all the insane things. So there was a break there before we actually got it started. I don't know which part of the story you want to dive into first. I'll just give you the quick background on how those two orgs came to be.
Yeah, do that.
We got clean in 2019 after just a series of murders, violence, watching our friends die and go to prison, losing everything we had. And when we just said enough's enough, we picked up and left the streets of Memphis, moved here to Georgia, to my parents' basement at the time. Slowly got businesses back off the ground. And then in March of 2021, an Army buddy of mine who had been previously addicted to opiates had, I guess, kind of found himself in the same shoes I was in back in like 2014. He's got a slew of charges, is addicted to crack and heroin and needed help again. We were like, well, now's the time to go ahead and start Flanders Fields. I think he had like a $2,700 out-of-pocket expense. The VA was going to take 6 weeks to cover. And dude, with the prevalence of fentanyl on the streets, 6 weeks is a death sentence. I mean, a delay of hours can be death. So I was like, screw that. We're going to pay the bill. We filed with the IRS. We went ahead and paid it, filed with the IRS that day to start the nonprofit. Ended up getting pulled into the evacuation out of Afghanistan on the Black Rifle side. Flanders got thrust kind of unexpectedly into the international spotlight. We go back to Memphis and start trying to take back the same trap houses and dope tracks where we used to suffer. And we realized that most of the people that were out there ready for help were not vets. Flanders was chartered to help vets. So we stood up We Fight Monsters as a sister org to help with everybody that didn't serve. That's the 30,000-foot version or view of the short version of how all that came to be. You tell us which direction you want to go, and we'll head in it with alacrity.
Let's dive into Flanders Field a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this is just from the outside looking in and not really me doing anything about it, but I've always had a soft spot for vets coming out and having to deal with the VA and, them prescribing shit that they probably shouldn't be prescribing to them.
Yeah.
And then they end up homeless. Like these guys have been overseas, fought for us, fought for freedom, put their life on the line, maybe been injured, maybe had limbs lost, whatever. And now they're homeless on the street, man. And our freaking government isn't doing anything about it. So just tell us, let's start there and then we'll move in.
Okay. So our inspiration to start Flanders Fields, you really just described him. He was an amputee that came back from Iraq, ended up addicted to opiates that were at the time prescribed by the VA. This is back in 2007, I think, when he got blown up. I got him off the street in like 2011, got him through treatment, hired him, gave him a job. He ended up living on my couch and then rented the house next door to me. And so 10 years later, he comes back into the picture. We went ahead and started Flanders. Now, I am a vet on paper. I mean, I did serve, I enlisted, but I was not in very long at all. But I've always had an affinity for the veteran community, grew up in a military family. And so we saw a gap and decided to do our best to stand in that gap and help other vets who are battling the same things that we battled out there. The VA's gotten a lot better about the overprescription of opiates, for sure. I think the awareness around the opioid epidemic has helped in large part with that. But there's nobody really there picking up the pieces. And when we talk about veteran homelessness, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but in our experience, which is pretty extensive all over the country, you don't just end up homeless by accident. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum.
Right. It's not like you have a house one day and the next day you don't.
Right. This goes for everybody. This isn't just for vets, but with veterans in particular, I don't think I've ever encountered one that was homeless that wasn't struggling with addiction, alcoholism, or mental illness, or all three.
Yeah.
And so as a society, we all want to see veteran homelessness stop, but there's not really anybody out there that we could find at the time who was attacking the root causes of veteran homelessness, which are addiction and mental illness. And so that's where we kind of dove right in. We've got that lived experience. We've been homeless on the streets, in the trap houses. We know what it's like. We know what it takes to get clean. And one thing we did run into early on was there are veteran-focused recovery groups. There are veteran-focused treatment centers. And I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers saying this, but guess what, dude? Vets recover just like everybody else.
Yeah.
This magic solution of treating them special because they're vets is not the way to do it. 12-step recovery is 12-step recovery. We all recover the same. So that's my soapbox speech about that. But that's how Flanders started. In the charter, we were chartered to help homeless vets, period. And so when we got pulled into Afghanistan, we now have countryless vets, allies all over Afghanistan. And so that's how we justified running the safe houses that we were doing over there. And Flanders got a lot of attention very quickly. Our brand awareness got huge. Our fundraising never really quite caught up to that. Like everybody heard of us. We've been on the news in Saudi Arabia. We've been on the news. I've been on Fox News. I don't know how many times, but the money's not coming from, we're not getting grant funding.
We have actually even had people that were like, hey, will you come to this thing so everybody will come because it's Flanders and they'll make money off of it. Yeah. It's like, bro, can we make some money off of it?
Right.
Yeah, can we use our own brand awareness to raise some money? But I think a big part of that is we just don't like to play the bureaucratic game. And
I get that 100%.
To get grant funding, you have to play games. A big thing that a lot of these grant making orgs look at is sustainability, and rightfully so. But when they see an organization that's comprised 100% of volunteers and nobody's taking a paycheck, they don't think that's sustainable. And I mean, realistically, maybe it's not. I don't know. We've sustained it for 3 years now, and it's going pretty good. But I think that's been an impediment to us getting big grant money. So we stopped the Safe House program in Afghanistan. We're still doing demining rotations to Ukraine. So we've got one of our vets in recovery who's an EOD expert. We've sent him on 4 or 5 rotations over there doing training for the Territorial Defense Forces. We're currently working on evacuations out of Haiti. So we're still doing some international stuff, which is incredibly expensive. But we've for all intents and purposes, pulled our focus back to Memphis, Tennessee, because it's a hotbed of fentanyl addiction, crack cocaine, violence, sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if we can do something in that one geography and prove that it works and prove that it's made a measurable dent in crime, overdose deaths, suffering, kids going into the system, adults getting incarcerated, if we can make dents in those areas, then we can blueprint what we did and send it out to the masses, and everybody can do it.
Yes, you can duplicate it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's really cool. Like the same houses y'all were, strung out in and doing dope in and sleeping on the floor in, y'all have turned into y'all don't call them recovery houses, hope houses, or
You can call them whatever you want. We always
whatever you want to, right?
It's like the line of we're turning dope houses into hope houses.
Yes, that was what I was looking for. Yeah,
we're turning crack houses into crack homes. I mean, it's
yes.
fun though. But you're right; they are the same houses we almost died in. My friends did die in those houses. My blood is still on the floor in some of those houses, and we started right there. And the reason for that, I mean, it's really simple. Jess and I. There's a picture somewhere when we hit rock bottom, and we probably prayed this prayer 1,000 times. We used to tell God, if you'll just get us out of here, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life coming back from people. And he got us out of there, and we went about our merry little way and started rebuilding businesses and making money, and eventually got back on our feet. And then he called that debt due. So don't make a promise to God in your darkest hour if you're not prepared at some point for him to remind you about that.
Yeah, for real.
And it did. It took us right back to the same houses, to the same people, the ones that are still alive. Yeah. And we've seen some tremendous success because, and some of them are vets. I mean, we started We Fight Monsters so that we could give equal help to people who didn't serve, because we're not going to step over the dead body of Americans just because they didn't wear a uniform. But there were some vets that were in there in those first few missions when we went back. And so the Buy Back the Block initiative and the several living houses that we run, those are actually, they started as a Flanders Fields initiative. In fact, I was kicked out of a network of halfway houses back in 2014 when I was on my way to my first rock bottom before I met Jess. And Flanders bought those houses. So we now own them. Vets stay in them free of charge. Trafficking survivors stay in them free of charge. Compliments of We Fight Monsters. And everybody else, they work their way through it. A lot of the work you see us doing on the dope track is actually done by residents of our halfway houses. It gives them purpose, and we don't mandate that. If they don't want to volunteer, that's cool. It's an opportunity in front of them for the ones that want to take advantage of that. But we've seen, we're restoring the dope houses back to livable condition, and we're getting to see lives restored in the process, which is just amazing to watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one thing, and I wish I meant to do it and I totally forgot. I meant to pull up that YouTube video that was like bloopers or whatever, whenever y'all were all out in the streets. I think I commented on it whenever you posted it. And it was just y'all. And that's what really got me, man. Cause it's not like y'all are out there preaching, you got to get clean. You got to get clean. You got to get clean. Y'all are out there loving the hell out of these people, spending time with them, hanging out with them, hugging their neck. I'll never forget that one black woman. She was like flirting with you like a mug, and Jess was like standing right there. And y'all just rolled with it and just played and had fun, and just like, you're real with these people, and that's exactly like people don't get that.
Chris.
That's exactly what it takes, man. You can't go in there.
If you're going into prisons to do the same work, you can't go in there acting high and mighty. You go in there acting like you're another inmate. Because you've been there, you get it.
And I've been there. Yeah, I was an inmate. Like I get
you know what it's like.
Yeah,
and that's I think one of the reasons we're so effective out there is not just because we can interact with people like we've been there, but the people we're interacting with, they've seen me smoke crack. They've seen me put $800 in heroin up my arm a day. They've seen me at my absolute worst, and now they see us like this, and that carries a message, and it's not a weak message. If Ben can do it, if Jess can do it, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah. And the fact that you're not going back looking like, oh, we're clean, we're successful, I live in a decent house, and whatever. You're just going in there like one of the guys, just like y'all were back then.
Oddly, we still feel like we are just one of the if you ask me who I am, I'm a junkie. I'm a drunk, and that will never change until God tells me that label changes. I do still very much identify as that. And, as soon as we started making money, Chris, we started a nonprofit with it. Like we're giving more to the nonprofit than we're raising sometimes.
Yeah.
So we do still live very humble lives. We may have a house
Yeah.
for us and all our kids, but our excess is going to, well, I'll give you an example.
You have 8 kids, right?
We do have 8 kids.
You got to have a pretty decent sized house for all that.
I'll give you an example, though. Right before we got pulled into Afghanistan, I bought a 1968 Chevelle with the intentions of doing all sorts of work on it. I bought that car 3 years ago. I just turned a wrench on it for the first time last week or week before last. That's sad. It took me that long to be willing to spend some money on myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we haven't really gone into our story. I had so many ups and downs over the years where I would do exactly what we've done. I'd build a business back. I'd get money coming in again. And then I would get that sense of accomplishment. Now I can drink like a real man. I'd start drinking responsibly. I'd start collecting toys again. And then we'd end up right back where we were. This is the longest either of us have been clean in our adult lives. And it's because we have purpose today. And our purpose is exactly what we're on this talking about is going back and doing what we're doing. So,
yeah, and to that point, whenever y'all were on the awesome journey with Kelly and Christy, I think
I love them.
Oh man, they're awesome. Yes, yeah, they are the best. And I think that's where I heard you say it. You were like, don't even think that we're doing this for some altruistic reason.
Right.
Like this is y'all's drug or y'all's replacement. This is what is keeping y'all sober now.
It's our 12th step. We have gone overboard with it. I have no problem admitting that. That's
what addicts do, man.
That's exactly right.
Because you don't lose that addiction, and it never leaves you. You just have to put it on something else. So this is our something else.
Yeah, you see a lot of people in recovery that will, get on fire for God, and that's awesome. They'll get on fire for working out, and that's awesome. This is, we're on fire for this. And God and working out too. I mean, we go all in on everything.
Right. I'm going to say Chris Smith, and I texted him before we started and told him y'all were going to be on. He was teaching a recovery class. He just said to tell y'all hi and he loves you, but he went into the working. Chris Smith is, man, dude, like he is like, I've done, I don't know, well over 100, 150, maybe even 200. I hadn't even counted it. I don't even know how many episodes of different shows that I've done. And he is by far in the top 5 of my favorite guests. Like he's just a bad son of a gun.
Like I just want a camera on him whenever he's
every
talking.
Time
and
he shows up.
Talk. I just want to be like, just hold up, let me get my camera.
Yes.
Yeah,
it is, man.
To a point where I could speak as comfortably and just effortlessly as him, even half as effortlessly. I think I'll be good. I think then I could go raise the money we need to raise to save the world. That guy, he is a speaker like no other.
Dude, like the first time I ever got on a Zoom call with him, just talking to him in normal conversation, you're sitting there like with your jaw on the floor.
Yeah,
100%. Like, bro, how do you do this, man? I meant to mention this earlier because I meant to get it before we started. There's a lot of things I meant to do before the episode and I didn't do it, but get a link to where people can go donate, but also going back to like the whole bureaucratic thing and grants and notoriety and being on Fox News. I think a lot of it is when people see you in the news like that and in the media, they automatically think
they assume there's money.
You're big. Yeah. They automatically assume they don't know you're scraping nickels to make ends meet,
Yeah, and then they see that. I mean, we're buying active dope houses and closing them. That's not cheap, So obviously, we do raise money. We just spend it the second we raise, which has been an issue with some of these grant making orgs. They look at our 990s and our banks and are like, okay, well, you're not paying any staff. You have $11.23 in your bank account, and you have $30,000 in bills this month. Why are we giving you money? I'm like, because we spent every dime we raised on the people we're helping. That's what we're supposed to do, right? We always make it work. We always make it work. And in large part, it's because of the same way you found us, Chris, social media. Our LinkedIn and Facebook families I don't have words for how great they are. When we have a need and it's compelling, the LinkedIn and Facebook family shows up and we're able to meet those needs. I wish we could get to a point where I could hire somebody to do a lot of, grant writing or what do they call it? Development director or something like that. But for now, dude, the immediate needs, like life and death needs that we have in Memphis, I can't peel money away from those people to hire some, it just.
Yeah. And
No.
like you said, the bureaucracy that comes with grants, man, you're so restricted because the grants comes rules and comes, you have to do this, you have to do that. And it may or may not, sacrifice your mission or sacrifice your vision and your mission statement. But if it does, you don't want to be tied to that.
Right. And it's not even the restrictions that come on it sometimes. It's trying to keep up with the boxes you have to check. Like some of them, we got a grant from, I don't remember who it was, a very small grant, like $3,500. The reporting requirement that came on the tail end of that blew my mind. Like it took hours. And I'm like, dude, I literally could have just gone live on Facebook for 3 hours and raised that much money.
Right.
Or more without having to do paperwork. So it is what it is. There's a game. And if you want money from certain people, you got to play that game. And I get that. It's their money. I would rather do things the way we're doing it, where we're out there meeting the immediate needs of people who have nobody else that can help them meet them.
Yeah, for sure. So where can people go donate? And I'll put links in the comments.
Okay.
Is it FlandersField.org or
it's Flanders Fields. So both plural, Flanders,
Fields.
like Ned Flanders, FlandersFields.org for vets. And if you're more called to help with the trafficking survivors or kids, it's WeFightMonsters.org. But I'll be totally transparent. Both orgs, basically, it's the exact same mission. It's the exact same board. It's the exact same volunteers, and it's the exact same houses. Flanders dollars can only go to vets. That's the difference.
Yeah. So tell us how you got started how did We Fight Monsters come about?
So you want to tell that story about going back? Or you want me to?
Oh, I feel like you've been talking the whole time.
I know.
And he has. I've been so sick all day, so I'm so off, and I'm so sorry. I was so excited because I love you, dude, and I wanted to come on this podcast. And now I feel like an asshole because I'm just so quiet right now.
No, you're good.
Well, I'm throwing you a bone. You want to talk about how we went back and everybody was dead, and we were like,
well,
okay.
So we go back to Memphis, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna go find all these vets, and we're like, because we did have the 1-9 Marine, and that's one of them that we were definitely going back for. We found him. He wasn't quite ready. And we kept finding that a lot of the vets that we would find that were like, hey, we're here. You ready to get clean? We got, they weren't ready. A lot of them were not. So we found, the other people that we went back for, they were not vets. And some of them were ready. And we ended up taking a lot of money out of our own bank account because we couldn't use Flanders dollars for it, IRS and, all that. We're only chartered for pets.
Right.
So we decided we're like, well, I'm not going to just tell you screw off because you didn't serve, we're going to take care of you too. So we decided to do another nonprofit, and this one's for everybody. So we decided to do We Fight Monsters. And I think right at that time is that when Jade happened with Leah and baby?
No. So we filed for We Fight Monsters that day right there.
Okay.
Or that was the day that motivated us. We went back when we were out there, I'm just going to speak incredibly bluntly right now. Jess was never a prostitute to feed her addiction, but a lot of women were. And I have never used the services of a prostitute, but most other addicts out there do. So the prostitutes viewed Jess and I as a safe place. And at first, we were giving them, a place to stay sometimes or rides. And then as we got further and further into our own rock bottom, the script flipped. They were feeding our kid because we couldn't. They were making sure we had gas in the truck. And so a lot of our closest friends out there were prostitutes. And that's who We Fight Monsters initially stood up for, because we went back to find them. And I think the first time we went back, we had a list of 14. Remember that promise we made God? We're going to come back for everybody we left behind. Well, I think we had a list of 14, and 6 of them were dead the first trip. Most of them from fent overdoses. There were a couple of murders. And man, that pattern repeated. The more we went back, the more we were losing. And we did spend a very significant amount of money out of our personal bank accounts because only one of the prostitutes that we were going back for was a veteran. And the rest of them, you know, we were having to get them off the streets, into detox, into treatment. You know, today we've got really good relationships with a lot of the treatment providers, the detoxes. We can get them covered under grants on their end. And so anyway, that's a long version of saying that's the reason we set up We Fight Monsters. And then We Fight Monsters kind of had its own Afghanistan with Jade and Leah. And what I mean by that is we had an event that really catapulted that into the spotlight on social media. Child sex trafficking survivor who was on drug court at the time had an infant 4 weeks old that the dad shook and almost killed. And so we got asked to go essentially recover her from the abuser. The baby is still in the hospital, and the several living houses that we own, we can't have kids there legally. So we went and signed a lease personally for We Fight Monsters to have a house for women and kids. And so that's been, I think, for us, one of the most rewarding things that we do is to get to see the women and kids in that house rebuilding their lives. It's grown significantly. That girl has since graduated drug court and is in her own place now. She's moved off on her own, working.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And baby Leah is doing amazing. And this is a baby they said would not really develop well. She would not be normal
if she even lived.
Yeah,
they were talking years of hospitalization, and we saw miracle after miracle take place.
She's doing amazing right now.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. She's like 9 months old. I mean, just developmentally almost advanced, but definitely on point with where she should be.
Yeah. That is so cool, man. So how many houses do y'all have now?
So we've
got 4 halfway houses. 3 are the Rebos, the ones that he got kicked out of. And then the 4th one is the Sparrow House, the one he just talked about with Jade and Leah. And then let's see, we've got
5 more. So there's two that were active dope houses that we closed down and took possession of. We've got a duplex that demolition is going to start on tomorrow for the rehab on that one. We've got an empty lot that we're going to do a playground on if we can ever get the money. So 9 houses in total, I think.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yes, 5 or 6 of them livable and good. You know, all told, I think we're housing somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 individuals, men, women, and kids.
No shit.
Yep.
Yeah. Now 40 to 50 of those are in our halfway houses. The rest, like I said, with the situation, Jade and Leah, we went and signed a lease. There have been a few of those situations where I won't put my name on a lease, but I will come up with the money to pay 6 months on your lease if we can get you approved somewhere. So or some people, we've got them in their own homes and we're supporting them, like Big Red. So yeah, there's a lot of people in Memphis dependent on us right now. And the goal is not for us to be doing handouts. Like it's a hand up always, you know, we don't just give them. So we got to see, you know, some sort, like Jade's a perfect example of that. Jade grabbed life by the balls and just got job and then another job and just worked until she could be self-sustaining. And that's always the goal with these people.
Yeah, for sure.
Is to get them to where they can be just like us. Except you know, we want them to carry the mission forward and do exactly what we're doing. And a lot of them.
That's awesome, man. So when you say demolition, y'all are demolition like for remodeling?
Yeah. So this house, it was bad. It was actually a brothel when I lived in South Memphis. So you can imagine the quality of the interior of this house. It's got to get ripped down to the studs. And so we're going to start that tomorrow. And we've had to do that with basically every form of dope. And they're built in the 1920s and 30s. They're old homes. So there's, you know, plaster on the walls. Some of them have lead paint. You know, you got all sorts of hoops you got to jump through and it's in a historical district. So it's not like you can just go in and tear the house down. The city's got something to say about that. And honestly, I wouldn't want to anyway. I think restoring that neighborhood to what it used to be is important for the ethos and the morale of South Memphis. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but South Memphis is the home of soul music. The Stax Museum there. Some of the coolest stories about integrating the integration of schools happened in South Memphis. Roselle Elementary is where the Memphis 13 were. Most people never heard that story because it was the story of the integration of 13 black students into a white school, and it was not met with any violence, protests, or insanity. It was just kids going to school, and nobody really gave a shit. And so it didn't make a lot of news. But today in 2024, if you look back at that, that's insane. That's the opposite of how it went everywhere else in the country. And so Memphis has this awesome, rich history that I want to see back there, where everybody gets along and it's not this hotbed of violence, rape, murder, robbery, and mayhem. And dope is at the core of all of that, dude. Like, there's no way around that. Dope is at the center of all of it. And we've actually proven that, with the 2 trap houses we closed. We took 2 of the most violent streets in South Memphis and have essentially stopped crime overnight.
That is insane, man. That is absolutely insane. And it's crazy to me, like, just because it's a historical district, so you can't tear it down, like you said, but not that you'd want to. Like, the city won't let you, but they will let it be a brothel or a trap house.
Right. I know. Well, and so, like, here's where it gets even weirder. If you don't pay the taxes for 3 years and then the city decides the house needs to be condemned, they'll tear it down. But right. Right. So I don't know. I could sit here and pontificate for days about the inefficacies of municipal government, but that's not what we're here for.
No, not at all. Not at all. Man, we've covered a lot. It seems like we've been talking forever, and it's only 33 minutes in. What else do we need to know about, like, Ben and Jess and what y'all are doing, man? Like, what?
I think this isn't so much about what we're doing, but just for awareness. I think one thing about our story that is unique, or maybe not unique, is that we come from totally different backgrounds, yet we ended up in the exact same trap house in South Memphis. And I think it's important for people to understand that addiction does not discriminate. I was raised by an Army Ranger who then went on to have a very storied career with the Fortune 500. I had a perfect childhood. My parents have been married for 45 years last month. I made my life chaos. Everything bad that ever happened to me was a direct result of my own terrible decisions.
Same.
Jess, on the other hand,
I had the complete opposite childhood as him. There was, wow, I just went blank. I'm sorry. I'm so sick right now. My mom was a very violent alcoholic. And then I think once I was around like 14 or 15, she found crack, and that was her world. And, we were like stealing so we could eat. My mom taught me how to steal. I'm actually a felon for theft. Because that's kind of the life that I lived. I always fighting, and started doing drugs when I was 13, just so I could numb myself, because I just didn't want to feel. My mom used to beat the shit out of me and feed us pills. Like, we would have movie night and we would just eat pills all night. So, like, at 13 or 14, like, that was my life. So yeah, drugs don't discriminate. 2 totally different directions in life, and yet we just merged at the same place, and we met in NA, which is insane. And for all of you listening, don't do that. NA is not a good place to meet.
It's not. Don't think you're gonna find happiness there.
So before I was doing drugs, I was a correctional officer in the county jail, and I was a cop for a little while. And one of my best friends, like, we worked at the animal clinic together. And then her mom is the one that actually got me the job at the jail. We were talking the other night, and she's working with the trustees, and they were wanting to pass notes to some of those females. And she was telling them, like, they're not in the place that you are. You're ready to get clean. They're not. And we had this whole conversation about how 99.9% of the time, if 2 of you are in addiction together, it's really hard for both of you to get out.
It is.
Like, it just doesn't work. And I was like, but you know what? My guest on Monday actually did that.
Actually, we didn't.
Oh, didn't.
In the end, we
eventually.
And I think that may just be because we're both too stubborn to admit
So
defeat.
hard-headed.
Thank God it worked out that way. But yeah, it's, we met in Narcotics Anonymous in 2015, very early in 2015. I was on drug court at the time. And, we were on that pink cloud, as they say. Everything was perfect. I mean, with the exception of the fact I was married. But that sounded worse than it was. All right. I was in the middle of a divorce. But things were good until they weren't. Neither of us had a solid foundation of recovery under our feet. I was 2 or 3 months clean. She was 5 or 6 months clean. We did make it to her 1 year before we relapsed, but it wasn't long after that we were both up and down all the time, using again, back in and out of jail. The first year in recovery, they say don't get in a relationship for a reason. And that goes for both. Don't it worked out good for us in the end, but even at rock bottom, we could not get clean together. I remember I put her in treatment. Was it 2017, 18? 18 for her to get together because she was worse off than I was, and that didn't go well. You know what happened the day I got her out, and then I went in 2018, 19. I don't remember. Derek take me multiple times. We would go without each other. We even went together twice. In the end, I just had to pick up and leave Memphis. Got on a Greyhound bus and came to Georgia without her, and without my kid. I was that ready to get sober, and 5 days later she realized she was too, and so thank God it worked out that way. But the point I'm making is this, Chris: if you're in active addiction with somebody you love, and you're waiting on them to make the choice to get better together, don't. It's not going to happen. Just you got to go do what you got to do for you. If it's meant to be, she's going to follow or he's going to follow. The only exception to that, I do have one, is a couple that we took. I'm not going to name names, but hopefully they're watching. Memphis police gave us this female back. They were going to take her to jail. She was like, I'm about to go to rehab. They're like, everybody's about to go to rehab when we're arresting them. She's like, no, seriously, my ride's on their way here right now. I just happened to pull up literally right after she told the cop that. And he did let us have her. And her dude went too, and they're both still clean to this day, that's the only time I've ever seen that happen. Jess and I couldn't even pull that one off, but they did it. There's, they're, I think 6 months clean right now, coming up on it.
Yeah, they're doing really
Nice.
good.
They're doing really good.
Very good. So y'all are in Georgia now, or are y'all living in Memphis?
We're currently in Georgia at our house.
Okay.
No, I just lied.
What? We are in Georgia.
No. We got another couple that just celebrated a year clean who got clean together. I forgot. They were from Puerto Rico, Army vets, both of them.
Oh, yes.
They're still clean. Anyway, we're in Georgia right now. We drove back from Memphis yesterday. We drove to Memphis the day before that. So in 24 hours, we drove 700 miles. In the last 10 days, I've spent 46 hours behind a windshield.
I remember I saw a Facebook post or something about that.
And guess what? Thursday, I'm going back.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah.
But it's what it takes.
Yeah, for sure.
But we're gathering right now that are going to help us so we can start laying low.
Yeah, we've got the most solid crew. I don't even have words. And I will name these names because we couldn't do what we do without them.
Name them. Give credit where it's due.
I hope they're watching. They usually do. But Chris Bobbitt is my right hand on the block. Josh Sneed is my right hand, also on the block, but on outreach. Tiffany Loving is our right hand when it comes to women. And then Bubba Cox is just always there. He was there when I got kicked out of that halfway house, and he came with the houses when we bought them. And then Matt Wallace runs our men's houses. And I got to tell you, Matt Wallace is probably one of the most unsung heroes we've got. He's super quiet on social media. The guy never gets in any of our videos or anything, but he's really the backbone of 90% of what we do. And hands down, I actually told him this earlier tonight. He's one of the greatest men I've ever known. And I've had the pleasure of meeting some of the most incredible men all around the world. But Matt Wallace, an ex-con in Memphis, Tennessee, is just probably one of the best I've ever known. So By far. And then we've got several others. Like, I don't want to make it sound like that's an exhaustive list. You know, we got Kirsten and Jade who have helped us do a whole lot on the women's side of things. Lucretia Sims, if she's watching, we recovered her from the trap house where we almost died. She runs Sparrow House for us now. She's just an absolute rock star.
She's the one that got her truck stolen. Like
she's the
2
one that
days
got her
ago.
truck. No, that was yesterday.
Was that yesterday?
Yesterday morning, she got her truck stolen.
Oh, that was yesterday.
Yeah. Krisha is, man, I could talk for hours about her. We have the pleasure of getting to deal with some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet. And I really wish they all had the same platform I do, because I do have a large social media reach, which makes it look like this is the Ben and Jess show. And it's very much not. You know, these guys are out there bleeding in the trenches every day.
Mm-hmm.
I at least get to come home to Georgia, where we live out in the country, and you know, it's nice. They're there all the time on the dope tracks, living in the halfway houses, and they're making things go round when we can't. And I'd be stone cold dead if not for them. Yeah, and so would a lot of other people.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And these people probably lived the same life y'all did.
Oh, dude, 100%. Look, Matt Wallace, I don't know how many years he's spent in prison. Matt essentially was given a life sentence to Rebos. They told him he had to ride out his probation there. So he came with the houses when we bought him. Chris Bobbitt's done 22 years of his 49 in prison. Krisha, I don't know how many times she's been in and out. Tiffany's been in and out a bunch. Josh Sneed, we got fresh from jail, or I guess fresh from treatment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've all lived the same life. Krisha lived the life with us. We were there
in
with
the
her.
trap house with her.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's got to be like full circle. Like that's
that's
got to be amazing, dude. Like to see, because that's somebody you knew and actually were friends with. And now y'all are working together.
Well, they weren't friends. Krisha and Jess hated each other.
She sold me fake crack, and it made me very angry.
But me and Krisha have always been cool. Now today they're, you know,
I love her to death.
Love her to death. I mean, that's my sister, man. You know, so, but yeah, and there's a few of those people that were out there with the grizzly bear with us, who are now alongside the mission helping. It's funny seeing everything kind of come full circle like that. But you got to remember, the whole reason we started was because of that promise we made God. We're going to come back for everything left behind. And honestly, Krisha, her sister, and her brother, they're the reason we came back.
Yeah.
And they're all, you know, her sister put down a 45-year heroin addiction, 44 years.
Wow.
Daily heroin use. She let us get her into a detox and treatment. We've got probably the best treatment intake coordinator of anybody on earth, period. His name's Marcus McDonald. He actually got that veteran couple placed for us. He can get people placed anywhere in the country inside of like 24 hours, which is critical. Like, you can't have a delay because people change their minds so fast.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, let them start jonesing a little bit and see where their mind is.
And what's amazing about Marcus is, like, we don't pay him. You know, we can't pay him. We don't have any money. All of our money goes to the housing and all of that. But you call the dude 24/7, and he'll answer the phone and he'll get somebody placed just because it's the right thing, just because somebody did it for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
awesome.
So
yeah, we've got to have this army of rock stars.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So where do we get merch at, man? Is it at Flanders Field?
OnceAmerican.com.
OnceAmerican.com.
Yep. We actually bought that domain. We were going to do something with it, like
I think we're going to have like a big collaboration of all of our efforts.
Yeah, it was going to be like, we had a great vision for it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sell T-shirts to fund the nonprofits. And so that's what it is now. But they're awesome shirts. She's wearing one. I'm wearing one. My hoodie came from there. And if you search the word pedos, like pedophile, pedos with an S, there's a lot of hilarious stuff on there too that we can't really post without getting kicked off of Facebook. Yeah, there's some cool stuff on there. You can imagine how we all feel about pedophiles and child exploiters and child abusers. So, but yeah, the apparel sales for a while funded a lot of what we were doing. Now, I feel bad about this, but I think our best customers now are actually people we've helped. People that have come along, or people that help us rather. Our volunteers probably spend more money than anybody else with us, which I feel bad about, but it doesn't matter. It still funds the mission. You know, it keeps the mission forward. So.
And they love it. They
love
send
it, yeah.
pictures, like their entire closet is just We Fight Monsters, and they're so proud of it. And I couldn't be happier. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, out there representing, man.
Oh, they're representing hard, man. It's a day doesn't go by where somebody doesn't post a picture of themselves or their kids wearing some of our apparel and tag us in it. Which
And
is
it's okay because they know where that money's going.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they're in there working it with you.
that's exactly right.
For sure.
I think I had this big vision that we would get big, like Grunt Style or Nine Line or Till Valhalla Project or something. Maybe one day it will, you know, but when you spend all the money on a mission instead of advertising, that gets tricky. So,
Yeah, for sure. When you're relying on just your social media,
yeah,
which is awesome.
it's working, man. I mean,
Yeah, it's working.
we're
Yeah.
housing 75 people in Memphis, and some of
Yeah,
that,
I mean, something's working, right?
It's getting done. It's getting done. We've not run into. We're always broke, and we're always unsure of how we're going to cross the next bridge, but we always manage to cross it.
God always provides.
Always.
Every time.
Always. You know, the Bible says, I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor a seed begging for bread. And it may come right down to the nut cutting, but
It always does.
The provision is there. Yes.
It comes every time. It's like I told Creasha when her truck got stolen yesterday, you know, don't worry, we're going to replace it. I don't know how yet, but it's going to get done. And I have no doubts about that. Neither does she. You know, the community and God will show up right on time. They always do. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at what we're doing, who doesn't love it? I mean, we're literally getting kids off the damn street, man. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It is. It's just the you know, as if Flanders Fields was not already big enough, you saw another need. And it's, you know, I'm not trying to like fanboy or toot y'all's horn, but I am at the same time. But it's just like, that is legitimately the heart of the Father, is to love on people, to pull people out of the pit, meet them where they're at, and not back down from, oh, okay, this needs to happen too. Oh, okay, this needs to happen too.
Well, we do stay very heavy in prayer, you know.
Yeah, I would imagine you have to, man.
Is
very
work.
Guided by God. I don't know. We don't have enough time to go into the stories, but we've gone some really weird, crazy places.
I bet.
Where people die. Sometimes while we're there, and I never feel scared because I don't go anywhere that God doesn't tell us to go. The mission is very much divinely ordained. We're not a religious organization, but Jess and I are very strong Christians, and we will never shy away from that. We're doing this because God told us to love our neighbor, and this is how we're loving our neighbor.
Come on.
And because of where we come from, our neighbors are the prostitutes, the addicts, the ex-cons, and in some cases, the bad guys. We've seen a handful of them decide to come over to our side of the street and start helping us. And some of them who are still out there as criminals have actually helped get a slew of women out of sex trafficking and into treatment. So,
and a lot of them aren't even bad guys. That's the way they were raised. Mama taught them, hey, if you need to go make some money, go sell this dope. And that, you know, from they were 9 years old. So, you know, where society deems them as, oh, they're bad guys or drug dealers, they're really not. And we know a lot of them, like, fully, like, actually on the inside, they're actually good people. They were just raised badly.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You know, having been to prison, you get asked, and I grew up a lot like Ben did. You know, I grew up in a real strong Christian home. You know, I was the kid in youth group that all the mamas were looking at for their daughters and just all that kind of stuff. And so you end up on drugs and in prison. When you get out, like, everybody has all these crazy questions. Like, were you in there with murderers? Were you in there with rapists? Like, what, you know, and like, man, like, yeah, there's some dudes that were pieces of shit, but there were also really good dudes. Like, it was like an oxymoron, but like good hearted, man, give you the shirt off their back.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. A human trafficker former human trafficker has helped us get more trafficking victims off the streets than anybody else. A dope boy has helped us close a dope house. You know, they're still good people. And I truly believe that no human life is beyond redemption. Caveat to that, I do not consider pedophiles people, but every human life is redeemable. So we're going to operate under that assumption until we have reason to believe otherwise. But we've seen some true bad guys become good.
And that dude that was a former human trafficker, he's probably helped y'all so much because he knows the game.
100%.
Yeah.
Like is able to because he knows the game.
He knows the game, and more importantly, he knows the players. You know, we know a lot of the players, but at the end of the day, if you look at me, I'm a tattooed white guy operating in South Memphis, and she's a big booty white girl operating in South Memphis. There's only so far that's going to get you.
Right.
So we got to know some of the players that are still on the wrong side of the law out there to do what we're doing. And even though they know we're taking food off their table, they like what we're doing. You help a dope boy's sister or mom stop selling her body and get off dope, you got a friend for life.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine so. All right. We've gone a little bit over time, which is fine because I've enjoyed the shit out of this conversation.
So
yeah, this has been a blast, man. Like any one last thing you want to know, like any pitch, anything.
You want me to take it?
Yeah, you go.
So for everybody watching, I try to close every conversation with this. We as human beings, and this isn't rehearsed, so I don't have like a good polished script. I probably need one like Chris Smith would have. But look,
right.
I do need to polish this because it's an important message. We as human beings, we're all broken in some way. We all struggle with something. And I think that our Creator has endowed inside every one of us something that breaks our heart. There's that thing we cannot stand to look at. For me and for Jess, it's kids suffering, particularly kids suffering the consequences of adults' bad decisions, whether that's war, addiction, it doesn't matter. I can't stand to see kids suffer. And I used to avoid looking at that for years. I would avoid reading news about it. Until the Afghanistan evacuation popped off and now our mission in Memphis. So what I do today, I move towards that thing that breaks my heart intentionally. And I try to make a difference. The smallest difference in the world at first is all it takes. And every day I try to do more the next day. And then I try to do more. And I think the more you move towards that thing that breaks your heart, the more people you're going to find that are aligned to you, that are trying to fight the same thing you're fighting. And they know people who are also doing the same thing. And before you know it, you're going to have an army of people who are helping make a difference in that same thing you are. But the reason this is important, the thing that breaks your heart doesn't have to look anything like what breaks mine. Right. But it's in that thing that we find our purpose for being on this earth. And a life without purpose, I mean, well, it's just pointless. But for an addict or an alcoholic like me, purpose is mission critical. I cannot stay sober without pursuing purpose. And so to sum that up, find the thing that breaks your heart, move towards it with everything you've got, find a way to make a difference in it and make some friends along the way. And before you know it, you're going to look back and be like, damn, dude, I really pulled off some amazing shit in the last year. Yeah. And that's, I think, where we all want to get as human beings.
Yeah. And that is beautifully put, man. Move towards the thing that breaks your heart. And, you know, and that I say this all the time, talking to different people. It says in the Bible in so many different places, and Jesus saw them and he was moved with compassion. And then he did whatever it is that he did, healed them or raised them from the dead or fed them or whatever. He saw them, he was moved, and then he took action.
Yep. And that right there is the biggest part, is the taking action. And notice it doesn't say Jesus went to find the Romans to do something about it. We're not supposed to go complain about what the government is or isn't doing. This is us, human level, our community, loving our neighbors.
Yes.
We're not petitioning the government to tell somebody else to go love their neighbors.
Right.
We're showing up. That's the critical piece of this, is that we're showing up. We're not going to social media to bitch about it. We're doing something.
Right. Exactly. And I think that is just like I said, that's just a perfect example of the heart of the Father and the heart of Jesus. because, like I said, he was moved with compassion, and then he did it, and that was the way it was all through the New Testament. You're not bitching about it. You're not. Yeah, Stephen, the government won't fix it. It's up to us.
Hey, look, I know he's being sarcastic. The
He is,
government will overcomplicate anything they can.
Anything,
Bureaucracies
yes.
end lives. I don't
Yes.
want the government involved in this. If they want to cut us a big fat check to go do some work, that's awesome.
We'll take it.
I
Right.
don't want to get tied up in a bureaucracy, though. Government's
Yeah.
going to make everything worse. Look at the war on drugs. Let's just, that one issue. It's been an abject failure from every single metric you could possibly look at. Yet, community solutions to a war on drugs, attacking it from the ground up, going out there, meeting the needs of those struggling, we're actually seeing a difference get made, and we're not having to arrest anybody. We're not sending anybody to prison. We're doing it out. So,
because, and I don't know if you've ever been locked up in prison. I know you've been in jail, but prison is not made for. There are good programs in prison, and I don't know if he's still watching, but Darren Wallace, he's a good friend of mine. He's a former TDCJ warden. They have really good programs, but most of them are voluntary. Like you have to want to go to them.
right.
So the programs may be great, but if you're not willing to change, and it doesn't freaking matter.
It doesn't matter.
at all.
It doesn't matter what resources are available if the people aren't willing to change.
Right.
That's
Right.
That's why Jess and I try to be ever present out there. And when we're not there, we make sure everybody knows that all of our Army can do the same thing we can do. There's somebody there if you think you're at a rock bottom. Because you know how it is, man. There's 1,000 points along the journey that could have been rock bottom if somebody had been there and said, hey, man, I've been in the hell you're in right now. Not only do I know how to get out of it, I'm going to walk out of it with you. Let's go. You know, that's different than knowing where a treatment center is, right?
Right. For sure. 100%. Absolutely.
Sorry, I keep starting to talk and then sucking.
No,
up
you're good, man.
I'm trying not to let her have to talk because I know she doesn't feel good.
I know. Well, thank you so much for coming on, even though you were tired. We'll end it right here, y'all. Next week, I have Gabe Leal and his girlfriend, Yvette. I don't remember her name because I just recently met her. Yvette something. Anyway, they'll be on next week to talk about their podcast. They do a bunch of love and relationship stuff. And Gabe is kind of one of the guys that helped me get started into live stream producing. He was a mentor for me in that because he's been doing that for a long time. So they will be on next week. And Ben and Jess, thank you all so much. Like, this was a blast. Jess, I hope you get to feeling better. Thank you for coming on, even though you were sick.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having us.
Thank
This has
you
been a
very
blast.
much.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry it
man.
took so long.
It's okay, man.
Kelly
It's
and
okay.
Chris, thank y'all so much for telling us to do this.
I know. And that's the thing, you know, that's what made me get on Facebook was I reached out to you on LinkedIn and shit got sideways or miscommunication, or you just got busy or whatever, which is totally fine. It's not like I felt like you blew me off. But Kelly was like, he is more active on Facebook. You've got to reach out to him on Facebook. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to start a Facebook account. And I started it just to reach out to you. And now
That's awesome.
So thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. And we will see y'all next week at the same time. Bye, y'all.